Back GDP. Why is '09 doing this? So just right back your. Guys, please be sure, out of respect to our presenters, to mute your mics. And in the interest of time, I know that folks are still joining in. We're going to get started. My name is Lizette Santos. I'm with the New York, New Jersey Minority Supplier Development Council. And I have my colleague, Colin Allam, as well, Director of Communications and MBE Certification Administrator. It is our pleasure to present to you the Estee Lauder Company Supplier Diversity presents Future of Beauty, Supplier Diversity. As I mentioned earlier, please keep your mics muted out of respect to those who are presenting. You'll also notice at the top bar, there is a Q&A where you'll be allowed to put your questions. And at that point in time, when the time permits, those questions will be addressed. And without further ado, I'd love to present to you Mindy Leary with Estee Lauder Companies, VP responsible for sourcing. Mindy?
Thank you, Lizette. Good morning, and I hope everybody is staying warm and safe on this snowy day. Welcome to the Future of Beauty with a focus on supplier diversity. As Lizette mentioned, my name is Mindy Leary, and I'm the Vice President of Responsible Sourcing here at the Estee Lauder Companies. Today, I'm incredibly honored to open this event. First, I'd like to thank our partners at the New York, New Jersey Minority Supplier Development Council for making this event possible. Inclusion and diversity are deeply rooted in our values at the Estee Lauder Companies. We champion diversity, equity, and inclusion across our end-to-end supply chain. So, in other words, starting within our own manufacturing, fulfillment, and supply chain operations, all the way to our vast network of external suppliers, third-party manufacturers, and vendors who are essential to our business. We have a robust supplier inclusion and diversity program focused on driving economic development and growth of diverse and small businesses in our supply base and increasing equitable participation in our supply chain. And we believe that this is a significant part of the future of beauty. We've placed a particularly strong focus on supporting women and Black-owned businesses, but also include suppliers representing veterans, ethnic minorities, LGBTQIA+, and people with disabilities, among other populations. Now, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Corey Reese, Senior Vice President and Global General Manager of Bumble & Bumble. In addition, he's one of our senior leaders driving progress towards our delivery of our racial equity commitments. He'll share more about those commitments in a moment. Corey, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Such a great pleasure to be here with you all today. And so thank you, Mindy, and to the Supplier I&D team for inviting me. For those of you whom I may not know, I'm Corey Reese, as Mindy just said and introduced me. I'm the Senior Vice President and Global General Manager of Bumble & Bumble. And I want to take a moment to thank everyone for making the time to be part of this important conversation today. Today, as we talk about supplier diversity being a part of the future of beauty, I want to acknowledge the responsibility that we at the Estee Lauder Companies feel to leverage our power as a leading global brand to create pathways for racial equity, both within our company and in our society. This topic is personally important to me because of my own commitment to advancing inclusion, diversity, and equity. I lead the creative and brand pillar of the Racial Equities Company, of the Estee Lauder Company's commitment to racial equity, where I help establish pathways for brands to accurately and consistently represent, engage, and meet the needs of diverse consumers from concept to counter. As Bumble & Bumble's global brand strategy lead, one of our core brand pillars is inclusion and individuality. Like snowflakes and like the ones outside today, no two haircuts and no two styles are the same. And we're committed to creating products that meet the needs of all hair types, textures, patterns, and styling preferences. Notably, our BB Curl and Hairdresser's Invisible Oil Ultra Rich collections are designed to meet the unique needs of curly and coily patterned consumers. At the Estee Lauder Companies, we made a promise to ensure the end-to-end creative process accurately and consistently represents the Black experience, engages Black professionals, and that our products meet the needs of our Black consumers. In fiscal year 24, we're following through with that promise to increase BIPOC representation across all aspects of our supplier and creative processes. We plan to increase our efforts by engaging top creative agencies that specialize in BIPOC talent, developing a BIPOC industry roster made up of photographers, directors, stylists that brands can reference during the creative selection process. Partnering with external organizations to increase visibility for the creative and beauty industry and BIPOC communities, and including supplier diversity in the North America creative and production sourcing processes. And in terms of our goal to drive economic development and growth of diverse and small businesses in our supplier base, the Estee Lauder Companies has a brand incubator program in which the first investment was made over a decade ago. This type of incubator model helps BIPOC communities, BIPOC companies by providing needed capital as well as industry-specific mentorship and expertise to accelerate their growth. All in all, this event is a special reflection of our commitment to the ways in which we all strive to make a positive impact in our global and local communities. And with that, I'll say a huge thank you again to the Supplier I&D team for hosting this event, and a big thank you for all of you for being here today. So back to you, Mindy.
Thanks, Corey. And now we are I'm going to introduce our panel and the event ahead. I invite our moderator, Tara Drillis, who is our Assistant Manager of Supplier I&D. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much, Wendy, and thank you, Corey, and the National or the New York, New Jersey Minority Supplier Council. I am so excited to be your moderator on today. My name is Tara Drillis, the Assistant Manager of the Supplier I&D at Estee Lauder Companies, and as I mentioned, I will be your moderator today. Before we start our conversation on the future of beauty, supplier diversity, or more specifically, how to do business with Estee Lauder Companies, I wanted to make sure that we can share a little bit more detail on our Supplier I&D program. So with that being said, I will share my screen. I'm having a few issues just expanding, but hopefully everyone can see this presentation here. So a little bit about our program. Our program has been formalized for just about over 3 years, and the mission of our program was to drive economic development and growth of diverse and small businesses in our supplier base, and to increase the equitable participation in the ELC supply chain. With that being said, and in alignment with that mission, we committed to double the amount that we spend with Black-owned businesses by fiscal year 23, and continue to support women-owned businesses with a goal to increase the spend to $150 million by 2025. I can confidently say that we've already achieved our Black-owned spend, and that has been with the help of incredible leaders in our organization, as well as developing and implementing key strategic initiatives in our program. That being said, where we are today, we have hundreds of certified small and diverse businesses in our program in the regions of Canada, South Africa, Germany, Switzerland, France, the UK, and the US, of which our EMEA or European countries we've expanded to in this year. So we are super excited to be in that market this year. As of last year, June 2022, we had approximately $402 million in small and diverse certified spend, of which $118 million was with the women-owned businesses and $43 million was with our Black-owned businesses. And as I mentioned, a lot of our goals and meeting it year over year has been through the partnership with a lot of our key leaders, our stakeholders, our external partners and advocacy organizations, such as the Minority Supplier Development Council, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to have this event today, and talk to you about the opportunities that are within the Estee Lauder Companies. With that said, I will stop sharing. And moving forward, I'm honored to introduce our panel for today. These are procurement leaders, some of our supplier I&D champions that we've been so fortunate to work and partner with within our program. I will first introduce Rich Bolwar, who is the Director of Logistics and Distribution category. Kathleen Hess, the Director of Global Consulting, Legal and Finance category. Norman Shea, the Facilities Management category manager. And Jen Denver, the Executive Director and Creative Production category executive director. Welcome, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so excited that you guys have said yes to joining this meeting today. I think it's incredibly important for us to have this moment to speak to our MBEs, as well as talk to our company about our program and all of the exciting initiatives that we have. With that being said, before we begin our exciting panel conversation, I think it's really important to just talk to how our journey was to get to beauty, as well as in alignment with the theme of the future of beauty, what would be your idea of the future of beauty, right? And I'll start, right? My journey to beauty was an unconventional one. I started in public accounting, and I worked at a public accounting firm for 5 very, very long years. And I had to make a decision where I wanted to make a change. I really wanted to make a change in my career, and I really wanted to be part of those change makers, which brought me to beauty. And I know it sounds like, well, change making and beauty, how does that intertwine? But to me, I've always had a vision at a very, very young age that beauty and fashion was going to be my career, my dream of industry to be in. And so I made that decision to work at Estee Lauder Companies, and Estee Lauder Companies has been a saving grace to me, as well as that stepping stone to get me closer to that career that I ultimately want to be in. So brings me to you all today, right? And in the concept of where I see the future of beauty, I think the first word that comes to mind is authenticity, right? And I think the reason why I'm thinking is authenticity is because I'm imagining a world of authentic products, responsibly sourced, that provides everyone their needs to be their truest authentic self, to embrace their authentic beauty. And so with that being said, I would love to pass it to Rich to kind of speak to his journey on getting to beauty, as well as that idea that he has for the future of beauty.
Great. Thanks, Tara. Again, my name is Rich Bolwar, and I lead North America's indirect procurement, particularly in areas of distribution, trucking, and warehousing. The entirety of my career has been focused on enhancing the lives of the 8 billion people that we share this planet with. I've moved from pharmaceuticals into flavors and fragrances, and today now in the area of beauty. I think the one facet that has been true of each of the industries I've been in is the uniqueness, our unique DNA, our response to medicines, and then thinking about our unique preferences in terms of smells and flavors and touch. And here in beauty, we need to recognize that each of us have, sort of unique definitions of what beauty is and how we choose to present ourselves to the world. So being part of a supply chain that, gives us the opportunity to address each of those 8 billion people that we call our fellow human beings is absolutely a thrill for me. Tara, I'd like to bend the rules a little bit on the one word. I'd like to offer a hyphenated word, which is mass customization. So if we recognize the unique requirements and desires of each of us, it really behooves us to really understand the customer at a really intimate level and to produce and distribute our products that recognizes the uniqueness of this world community.
Incredible. I love that. Mass customization. I think we should be like licensing these words. Kathy, would you like to share your journey as well as your word for the future of beauty? You're on mute.
Of course, I'm on mute. Start
Yes.
all my calls that way. My
As
name's
well.
Kathleen Hess, and I'm the
Yes.
Director of Global Indirect Procurement for Consulting, Legal, and Finance. I've worked in pharma and tech and finance industries, and I hadn't worked in a beauty company or a consumer products goods company. So when I was looking for the next fit, I started researching other industries and looking at the types of companies out there. And Estee Lauder and the beauty industry are one of those industries that are changing so rapidly, and they're constantly innovating, that the speed to market that we have is amazing. And it's never the same thing. You go in every day and there's something new that you're working on. And it's really exciting, especially starting as a tech buyer when tech was like moving at the speed of lightning. I feel like beauty has kind of replaced that speed. And my word for the future of beauty is individualization. I really want to say more, but I'm going to hold back till later, and I'm going to hand it over to Norman.
I love it. Keeping us on the edge there. Norman, how about yourself?
Thank you, Kathy. My name is Norman Shea. I am the indirect procurement lead for facility management category. My journey is not as crazy as the other folks. It started back when I was in school. One of my good friends worked in Estee Lauder, and just that she's been sharing a lot of the good experience, company culture that she worked with. And then just that when the opportunity presents, I just kind of want to see it myself, and here I am a year later, and still enjoying it. One of my one word to the future of beauty is comfortable. Beauty comes in different shapes, colors, ages, young, old, mature, immature. We'll just need to embrace the difference and be comfortable with ourselves. Everyone is beauty when you feel comfortable with yourself, and everybody's unique and beautiful. So be comfortable.
I love that. I love that. Comfort is key. Comfort is very key. And Jen.
Hi, everybody. I am Jennifer Denver, and I am the Executive Director for Creative Production, PR Events, and Influencers. I kind of had an interesting journey, sort of similar to Tara. Actually, I was a nanny and a teacher right out of college. And as we know, things don't always go as we planned. And I had to ask myself that question, what do I like? I liked fashion and beauty. I always liked to look good, as it made me feel good inside and out. It was just fun for me. I actually interviewed.
You look great.
Oh, well, that's very kind, Tara, very kind. I wasn't fishing for that compliment, but thank you. I actually interviewed at an ELC brand and a fashion company at the same time, and I got the job at the fashion company. I worked there for many years, but there was just always something pulling me back to beauty. Finally, I got a call from a previous colleague who was at ELC that there was an opportunity here, and I jumped at it. I've now been here for 3 happy years. It led a lot to me come full circle. I'm very brand loyal, so it's nice to work for 2 iconic brands. And I see the future of beauty is limitless. It's a little bit of what everyone was saying, individualization, comfort. There's so many different shapes and sizes. I think, Norman, you really covered everything. And with so many differences out there, it is limitless. Just open your eyes, your inside, outside, everything. It's not just looks, it's inside and outside and all our products. So to me, it was limitless.
Incredible. I am inspired by all of your journeys, and I love all of the words that we all collectively thought on today. Authenticity, mass customization, individualism, comfort, and now limitless. I think these are all very key words, and all of which are the future of beauty in my eyes. And so with that being said, Jen, since we have a turtleneck thing going on, I'm going to start with you today. You have been one of our champions in the category leaders in our program, and you've had in the 3 years transformed quite a bit, of which where you implemented inclusion and diversity in your procurement strategy. Can you just speak a little bit more on how you were able to implement that, and if there's been any success stories that you would like to share today that we can share with our MBEs? I'd love to hear it.
Sure. We, in this particular creative production category, had 3 strategic points that we established goals for. First was introduce new diverse suppliers. Second, grow existing diverse suppliers. And 3, subcontract to diverse suppliers. To introduce new diverse suppliers, we had embedded supplier I&D into the creative production procurement process. One of my team members was the I&D champion, partnering with multiple internal teams to establish I&D considerations with suppliers and brands at initial engagement and all throughout the relationship. To start, we developed and documented multiple resources for all brand creative teams for their accessibility and use. Those included RFX services deck that included all steps and where I&D should be considered within this process. We encourage to include at least one diverse supplier. We sourced and vetted new suppliers, developing a comprehensive roster of our agencies that includes if it's certified and what that certification is. We've established a few initiatives to spotlight agencies to the brands. We have creative agency spotlight series where agencies come on a call to present their capabilities and business cases to all brand creative teams and have seen much success with all brands attendance. We have partnered with Mindy and her team to feature articles on our I&D supplier internal ELC website. Mindy and her team use forums such as this to highlight select suppliers and have them present their work with ELC and/or the industry-wide. Moving on to the second strategy of growing existing diverse suppliers, brands will utilize the agency roster and my team will support certification of any self-identified diverse supplier that may not be certified. We get them in contact with Mindy's team to walk them through the process and see them through to certification. We also ensure suppliers renew their certifications. Our third strategy of subcontract to diverse suppliers is if a supplier is engaging any third parties on ELC's behalf, we suggest that they use certified diverse if they can. For example, our photo studio used to hire crew and catering. We encourage that they use certified diverse suppliers. We had much success with a supplier that was self-identified Black women owned, but they were not certified. So we supported them to get their certification, had them present at our agency spotlight series, featured them on my ELC, and had them present with ELC at a Metro New York Black MBA Association event, giving the supplier much visibility and opportunity to grow business with ELC as well as within the industry. I hope that answered the question thoroughly.
Listen, thoroughly is not the word to describe it, but I think you've answered it perfectly. I think you have done a stupendous job, in my opinion, my humble opinion here, of making sure that diverse suppliers are the priority, is integrated in the strategy, best in class process, having them part of the sourcing, spotlighting these suppliers on our intranet in any way that you feel the need or feel best. So that being said, I think that's incredible. Moving forward to Kathy, this is one of the questions that I think, or one of the topics I think we all can kind of relate to. Suppliers are always reaching out to us, specifically in procurement, or probably just in Estee Lauder companies in general, to understand how to do business or just to speak on their capabilities, right? And I think there's always emails coming through LinkedIn, through phone calls now, maybe text messages. I think my director mentioned that she's getting now. What are some ways that you think might be the most effective way to properly get our attention? And if there's any tips or tricks that you have, or frequently how many times they should follow up? I would love to hear your point of view.
Absolutely. So obviously the best way is the most effective way, and one of the easiest ways to get in touch with us and contact us is by registering on our supplier portal, which I did post in the chat. That is the most effective way, because I get, and the team gets, millions. It feels like millions. It's probably not, but we get so many emails, so many cold calls, and we want to work with diverse suppliers, but sometimes our priorities are just on a different project and it doesn't have the right fit, or it's the wrong supplier, or it's the wrong category, or there's so many reasons that we don't necessarily respond to one of those cold calls or emails. And the best way for us to be able to go back and look at that is going to our supplier portal. So when I have the question asked, oh, I have this project and I need to find some suppliers, I go into our supplier portal and I identify suppliers that we might possibly work with, in addition to our current suppliers that are supplier diverse suppliers. So that is the most effective. I know that we're not going to stop with the cold calls, and I honestly don't think you should, because sometimes something's on my mind and somebody sends me an email and I'm like, yes, I must speak to you today. So I'm going to say, yes, keep doing your emails and your cold calls. I think it's a personal preference for everybody, how they like to get these messages and what they like to know. I'm a fan of quick, easy, here's what I do, how can I help you, or can I help somebody in your organization? Some of the approach is a little, it's not my speed, where it's a little too sales pitchy or a little too pushy. I kind of like the light and friendly one. I think most of my supplier relationships that I've built over the 20 years started from a cold call for the most part, and sending me a funny article, or like if you get me on a call and you learn something funny about me, relating back to the person is always very helpful. It helps us remember who you are, what organization you're working for, and how we might be able to connect at some point in the future. Another tip I would have is in the subject line, your company name, what kind of category you support or what your services are, so that when we are going back to look for that diverse supplier that emailed us that one time that had that really interesting offering, it's easier for us to find it because it's in the subject line. That's always very helpful to us, because when we're trying to find that, if you haven't registered or if we can't remember the name of your organization, having what you specialize in that subject's very helpful. And a lot of times I think the frequency should be, I don't want to say monthly because that would probably anger a lot of people, but I say 4 to 6 times a year, just to stay, in our email boxes. Don't be offended when we don't answer, because I think if we answered all of our cold calls, we'd be doing it for the whole job and not being able to build the relationships like Jen is. But yeah, I think it's personal. I think sharing articles and our topics are helpful. I think, networking on LinkedIn is very helpful, inviting us to different events that might be interesting. All those little things help. You do need to be persistent, but we are definitely working to build up our diverse supplier base here at ELC.
I love that. And thank you, Kathy. I think when you started mentioning those tips, it reminded me, or took me back to the words that we started thinking of for the future of beauty, with like authenticity, just being a little bit more authentic when you're reaching out and being more comfortable and just providing that platform to be able to build a relationship with us. I think that's super key there. And one thing I would like to mention, and I'm not sure if Lizette did mention this previously, this is actually recorded. So in the event that you're just scribbling along and Kathy, you missed something that she said, it will be readily accessible to you after this call if there is any things that you guys want to implement moving forward. And so then, with that being said, I would like to ask Norman this next question, more so regarding the suppliers that we actually work with, right? So how would you say, what are some of the things that we value in some of the suppliers that we currently actually work with, right? And how would you recommend, or what have you seen from suppliers that have, one, got a contract with us and then to begin to become a preferred supplier of ours, right? The ones that we always go to for services. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Sure, I definitely can share about what we value in suppliers, definitely in the facility management category. So one might think that the cost is, the main driver when we choose the suppliers in this category. Although the cost is important, it does impact our bottom line, but it's not the only things that we value in a preferred supplier. There are other things, categories that's per se that we look for our preferred suppliers. One being quality, whether you're material provider or service provider, quality is also very important to us. Safety, if you are a service provider, safety is, when you step a foot in our manufacturing world, safety is the key. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We wanted you come to safety work and safety go home to your family. The next would be if you're a service provider, will be a service response time. There are often times that when the time's needed or emergencies, we expected the service providers come forward and help us in the needs. The next, if you are a material provider, delivery time, lead time is also important for us. Since the pandemic, I think everybody experienced some of the difficulty in terms of the lead time. So that's one of the things that we value our preferred suppliers in terms of how he can help us to shorten that lead time, right? And then the another thing is sustainability. I think this is one of the things that a lot of preferred suppliers in my category start talking about. EcoVadis, this is one of the online platforms that where you can register and log in and to provide this. This is a platform that provides suppliers sustainability ratings and allow us to access the performance of their a benchmark with their peers, and zero waste program and within the sustainabilities and recyclable material use or recycling programs that you need if you have one. And then lastly, of course, it will be the inclusive and diversity program. We also look into bringing to more diverse suppliers. This is what we're here all about today. So those are some of the things that we value in our preferred suppliers in the facility management category.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I hope there's some facilities MBEs in here that have heard those points. And obviously we are here if in the event that you want to reach out after, or you have Q&A specifically for Norman on these values, please feel free to add it to the chat or reach out to us after. And now to the meat of this conversation. I know you're all waiting on what are the opportunities that exist currently that are open to these MBEs or to you all on this call. And I would like to start with Kathy. If you could just start sharing, and it'll be Kathy, Jen, Rich, and Norman on some of the opportunities that are down the pipeline that may be something that an MBE or just a supplier in general can be made aware of.
Yeah, I started last year here at ELC, so I'm slowly working through each of my categories. The one that I'm going to be focusing on in the next couple of weeks is our financial services area. So looking for suppliers with fintech experience, kind of anything that falls under the financial services category would be the most interesting to me in the next few weeks. Other areas that my team works on that we are not currently looking for new suppliers, but we will at some point in the future, would be consulting and legal, and my colleagues cover the temp recruiting, which we are working on, I think, probably a year and a half out. So any of those areas, it'd be great if you guys could go into the portal and apply. That would be fantastic, because when I start to look for the suppliers, that is always my first spot.
Awesome, thank you. Jen?
Yeah, so I mean, as I was saying, I gave a very thorough what we've done in creative reductions. I'm still continuing to look for those types of agencies, as Corey even stated, looking for top creative agencies that specialize in BIPOC content. We're looking for diverse certifications, as well as diverse talent on the teams that will be working with our brands to support various experiences and viewpoints to our creative campaign work. This can include the agency talent that we work with, and anyone in front or even behind the camera talent. So I'm continuing this journey in creative production, as well as, even as Kathy was saying, digging into some other categories with PR and events in the future.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Norman, or Rich, sorry, Rich.
Yeah, so if I think about trucking, first I want to mention, ELC is winning. In 2021, I think our growth over the previous year was like 13%, and I think 22 is going to prove to be a growth year too, somewhere in the year of 9%. And if you think about trucking, for every growth in the products that we sell, you've got materials that are going into our value chain and they're coming out. So our need to distribute, to move products around, grows actually faster than the size of our business actually grows. If you also consider that trucking for years now in the U.S. has been a strained industry, whether it's hours of service regulation, the rising technology requirements, and as I mentioned earlier, this mass customization, the demand for trucking services continues to grow for us. And so the desire for truckload and refrigerated, even white glove, expedited services continues to grow. So we're looking for companies that can service our customers all across North America, those that can manage cross-border distribution as well. Huge opportunity across the board for us, and really welcome companies, particularly Black and African-owned companies, to reach out to us so that, as we look at transportation, we'd like to see that the suppliers that we're doing business also reflects the diversity of our customer base as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And last but not least, Norman.
Sure. There's always work in facility management, right? So we are always looking for new suppliers, especially that we can cover the regional basis. We do have a facilities, manufacturing facilities in Melville, New York, just outside of the New York City, and also outside of Philadelphia. So if there were companies that can service two locations, two birds in one stone, or out in the I know this is the more focused on a tri-state, so I would just stay with these regions. If you can service those two locations, will be a very high plus for us that we're looking for any new suppliers in this category.
Incredible, incredible. I'm so happy, honestly, that there are so many opportunities that you all can speak to. I do hope that this is beneficial to the MBs that are on the call today. And as I mentioned, please feel free to reach out either in Q&A or after this call, and also register on our registration portal, as Kathleen has given plug on many times during this meeting. But needless to say, there are opportunities, also not specifically only in these categories as well. Just please register to our portal, and if there's an opportunity there, we cannot guarantee business, but at least we'll have it readily available and accessible to review your capabilities in your company. And so that brings me to my last question here. I would love for Rich to speak on this. Why do you think it is important to work with an MB or a small diverse supplier? What do you think the value is in working with some of these MBs or diverse suppliers in general?
Tara, as you know, and a lot of us know, that's a really big question. And there's lots of facets to the answer. I'll try and touch on a few of them. First of all, I think there's intrinsic value. If we step back and realize the corporation of which ELC is one, there's an obligation and a benefit to the community and society that well exceeds the products that we sell, to the end customer, whether it's through our employment or through how our corporate taxes go to support our local, regional, and federal government, to us as a company, as an investment vehicle. We serve and support the regions in so many different ways. But in reflecting the diversity of our community, the same is true. Those partners give us not just the services that help us to be the company that we are. And, let me also say that ELC would be nothing with our supply base. Our supply base brings their best to us and allows the 60,000 plus employees that I work with to take all those materials and all those services and combine them in unique ways that allows us to present all of our products across our 20 plus brands. The value they bring to us also comes with it ideas and insight, ultimately, into the customers that we serve. They bring to us innovation. They bring to us expertise in the services and the products that ultimately become our products. So, we look at it as sort of a human ecosystem that goes from the services and the ideas all the way back to those folks that are often both our suppliers and often also our customers as well. So I think it's a big, sort of connected circle, just as our globe is a connected circle of people. And I think there's a lot of intrinsic, sort of facets to that really encompasses what we'd say is the value that diverse supplier base brings to us.
Incredible. That was a profound answer, in my opinion. Thank you, Rich. Kathy, would you like to also share?
It's hard to follow up, but I think personally, I like to watch, since I'm in consulting and professional services, I'm dealing with these mammoth consulting firms, and I love when I can bring in a small, diverse partner and they bring a fresh perspective, they bring innovation, they have a little less bureaucracy to deal with, and they can really challenge the work and quality of my larger suppliers. And that for me is kind of fun. Like, it's really exciting to watch them bring something forward that nobody's thought about and something that we might have been struggling with. Really, like, they have the ability to get outside of the norm. They're not just lifting and shifting idea from one supplier to another partner. So that's one of my areas. I have to say the events are fun too. Like in my career, going to the different events, meeting different suppliers, really understanding what's going on in the world based on how our suppliers are reacting to it has been very beneficial for me in my career. So it's always one of the areas that I like to work on. I think I met Ashley and Tara right away when I started here. It was like one of the first group of people that I wanted to make sure I knew and understood. So for me, it's a pet project that I want to make sure that we have the best suppliers in place and that we're utilizing the diversity to make our company stronger.
Amazing. I'm really believing that the future of beauty is truly diversity. It's the diversity of thought. It brings innovation. I think that's really, truly the theme here. And I hope you all can agree that that is the messaging that they've all said and we've all been saying. Diversity is truly, truly key here. And, I think with us having such a robust supplier diversity program, it's a small but mighty team of two. We have been super excited and really fortunate, to be honest, to be working with such a great company. And the culture, as you can see from our procurement leaders, is one that embraces diversity in all aspects. So with that being said, that is actually the last question that we have for our panel conversation. I would love to take this moment to open it up to Q&A. Please don't be shy. We would love to hear your input, even if it's just feedback. Please take this moment now to either put it in the Q&A chat box or raise your hand, and we'll be happy to help answer those questions. Just give a few minutes or a few seconds there.
We welcome any questions, so please drop any questions you have in the Q&A or in the chat. Love to hear from you. And hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Gabb, the Director of Supplier Inclusion and Diversity. I'm so happy to hear all the responses from the questions. Thank you to the panelists, to everyone who's joined, to Mindy and Corey for opening this up. We'd love to hear from anyone who has any questions.
So we've got a question from Shivam in the Q&A, so I'll just go ahead and read it for everyone. Is there a specific place for technology companies to try and supply Estee Lauder for retail tech? I know that it's a competitive field, but it's been very hard to get noticed and a response as a minority company.
So not being in that category, what is retail tech specifically? Is it like where you make the payments, or is there something else?
Like point of sale
Yeah.
systems.
Okay.
Shivam, feel free to unmute yourself.
Oh, hi. Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's specifically more like engagement technologies like digital signage and screens and such. You know, it's a very narrow category, but it's very difficult sometimes to find the right person to talk to be included in some of those conversations.
Yeah, I don't even know who in our organization would do that. Because if it was payment services, then it would be somebody on my team. Digital signage, I don't know. But definitely register. Put a little note in the chat that we have going, specifically what your company does, and we will share it with the right person.
Might be the IT team.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure.
Thank you very much.
Someone in a retail stores area. Norm, we can probably give a heads up to someone in our organization related to the stores.
Yep, absolutely. And as Kathy said, please feel free to register and we will make sure to pass it along to the right individual. Specifically, we're thinking it would be in the technology. And actually, I'm not sure if you had something to add there as well, as I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, I was going to say you can register in the portal and then we can definitely circulate that too, because it seems like it covers a few different categories. So we would circulate it to a few of our category leaders from there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
You know,
Shiv.
Sorry.
to that point, I'd just like to add, as a company, we like to see ourselves as a learning company as well. So we do really welcome suppliers to come to us and give us their views of the realities of doing business with ELC. If there's some difficulty in finding who the right person is to reach out to really demonstrate what your capabilities are, let us know. Someone will pick up that question and it might result in a change that gives the minority suppliers some great opportunity. I know that I've engaged with some trucking companies who told us simple things like, it's really difficult when registering to figure out what category to put themselves into, or to understand, whether they're the right size or what are the right requirements to be able to do business with ELC. I think a lot of large corporations, just the sheer size of them can be intimidating. The more that we can bring ourselves to the right level to meet the needs of the potential supplier, to understand what it would mean to be onboarded and to find potential to do business with ELC, understanding that from your perspective is something that we'd really like to hear about.
Awesome. We have a hand raised, Jake Packett. Jake, did you have a question for us?
I did. Sorry, I turned on my camera and it looked like it wasn't working, but I'm smiling. I don't know if you can see me.
We hear
So
it.
all thank you guys so much for this time. It was pretty neat to silently on mute hold up my fingers and snap as you guys were speaking. It was just some really inspiring and just great things to hear from me as a Black man. To hear that people are approaching the beauty space in the same way that I hope people would approach any opportunity as far as product creation and things of that nature for someone who looks like me. So thank you for that. But the question I have is for Jennifer. I work for Mojo. We are a strategic marketing digital partner, and we do all kinds of stuff along the lines of creative production, PR. We also do a lot of work with different financial organizations and things of that. And I was just curious, just because you had some interesting things to say that kind of connected with me, what kind of things are coming up down the pike that maybe for all of us who are interested in being in the pool of diverse suppliers, things that we can look out for, or things that we can make sure, because we also don't want to waste your time if we're not right. Maybe it wouldn't be good to have us poking people and things of that nature. So I would love to know just what some of those things look like so that we can see if we're a good fit down the road, and that might be helpful for everyone else who's thinking of signing up and reaching out regarding some of these opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, we work, echoing, sorry. ELC, it's just a robust roster of brands. As we know, there's 20 plus brands, so we're looking to meet the demands of the diverse brands we even manage. We're always looking, as I was saying, for top creative agencies, whether that is more strategy driven and creating brand strategy, or even creative campaign work. We are looking in the future very heavily into that behind the camera talent, as well as in front of the camera talent. We're trying to get our campaigns to be much more diverse. So we're always looking for creative agencies, creative production agencies. I know social has exponentially blown up, as we all know, and there's a high gravity towards TikTok. But then there's also, what is the future? What's next after TikTok? But right now, there's definitely a high demand for digital video that maybe some of our suppliers are lacking because we need sound stages. So that's another avenue, as well as we're looking into. I'm going to be trying to lift and shift the same strategy I did in creative production into PR and events, because there's a lot of potential in the PR and event space, as those tend to be much smaller suppliers than the bigger agencies that you may work with in other categories. Even in creative production, we do have some big names that we work with, but that's like another opportunity in the PR and event space.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And feel free to
Thank you,
reach out
Kate.
and email.
I had a question, if you don't mind. Thanks so much. My name is Godfrey Bakuli. I work with a Pioneer Strategy Group. It's a consultancy in the innovation space, so it could be for the IDEOs of the world and things like that. I had a question, I think, for Kathy, but open to the rest of the group. I love your kind of openness to saying bombard us, but don't bombard us with stuff. I kind of would have thought that a company of this size, having worked with the P&Gs in the world in beauty and innovation consulting there, would say, go to our staff and procurement will help kind of sift through things. But you guys are kind of saying, come to us first. Is that unique for ELC or something that you kind of see as a kind of typical thing as I try to navigate getting first contract with the company?
So in an ideal world, we want you to come to us. We want to build that relationship and introduce you to our stakeholders. It gives us better control over the suppliers that we're working with. It gives us better control over the whole engagement, the sourcing part of it, getting you onboarded, getting you paid. Like when we're involved, when the procurement organization is involved, the whole process just runs smoother. With that being said, you're sometimes going to get more leverage by going to the business directly. Which, yeah, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but I am going to say, if you do that, come back to us and be like, hey, I spoke to so-and-so and we're talking about this. Sometimes they're really excited about a project, but they have absolutely no money to pay for that project. So we kind of know when they have the money. So like, we'll help you. Like, we're here to advocate for you as much as we're hoping our partners will help to advocate for us. So in my book, it's like me and the supplier against the organization, like make sure we're working together and coordinating. Just because I understand what it's like, for our partners, they go out and they have an objective and it's a completely different objective than I have. So they're like, I got to get this done. And they go off running and they forget all of the steps that they need to take to make sure we're not getting ourselves into a risky situation. So yeah, sure, absolutely talk to the stakeholders. But also, like, if you get any leads or if you have anything, come back and chat with me. And then for consulting specifically, we just did a big supplier panel. So we're not doing that yet, but we'll probably in about a year, 12 months, we'll probably be refreshing that panel to find, suppliers who could provide the level of services that we need and see how the suppliers that we currently have on that panel are performing. So please register in the portal and you can go ahead and email me directly as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Can I just add a couple of thoughts to that response, if you don't mind? Godfrey, I think it was a great question. I'm relatively new to Estee Lauder, less than a year, and one of the things that I've absolutely learned thus far, it's a very entrepreneurial organization. So, as Kathleen, suggested, things end up coming back through indirect procurement, as, particularly my area of responsibility, as I've learned and understood sort of the cadence of the business, understood the needs of my varied, stakeholders. I recognize that it's not always consistent in where IP is involved in the conversation, right? So an entry of a supplier through a stakeholder may look completely different, like an entry that comes through us, but eventually it does come through us. There's some benefit of engaging with indirect procurement as soon as possible up front. Maybe sometimes it doesn't make sense because the business partner may have the domain knowledge or the expertise to really understand what a new supplier has to offer, particularly if it's an area of new technology or somewhat emerging. But, in the end, I think, if you're a minority supplier, absolutely registering is one of the prerequisites. As I think Kathleen and others have mentioned, when you reach out to us, ensure that your emails have the pertinent information. Tell us about who you are. Tell us about perhaps who some of your referenceable customers are. Tell us information that somebody that may really understand your product or service or not understand your product or service can walk away from your communication with information that allows them to move forward, or to politely respond to say, we're not ready to move forward at this time for such and such reasons. I think the quality of communications, considering the entrepreneurship of this organization, it could be the, determining factor of how quickly you move into sort of our supplier, biosphere, for lack of a better word.
Awesome.
And,
Thank you.
and if I may
Hopefully that's
add on top
helpful.
of
Mhm.
what Rich is saying, I like to often in my category, I like to think, indirect procurement is the facilitator, the bridge between you and the company, right?
Definitely.
The business stakeholder, they have a task to do. That's why they reach out to the suppliers directly for a service they need or the parts they need. But there are things happening behind the scenes, like payment issues, onboardings, other certificates, or other things that where I think where indirect procurement comes to play. That's why the if you can pull us in early on in the process where we can get that thing out of the way, where help you in terms of IT issues, locking on a portal or payment issues on the back behind the scenes. That's where we can bridge the gaps. I like to say that, bridge the gap.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's a great discussion. Thank you for that great question. Mona Lisa, I believe you raised your hand initially. Did you still have a question?
Yes, I did raise my hand. I provide soft beauty tools. And I just was wondering, like, I'm always trying to get in front of like different buyers, maybe for like collaborations. I do have a partnership with a huge manufacturing company, so I'm able to produce in large amounts, but it's always like hard to get in front of like the right people. So I definitely will register through the portal, and if it's okay, I will request everyone on LinkedIn if that's okay. But yeah, this is really exciting. I had no clue all the things. I didn't know what this was really going to be about, but to get trucking and all these other divisions of help that you guys need, it's just opening my eyes. But yeah, I'm more in just the beauty products, but just like even those in-person events, like I would love to attend some of those and just network more, get a better understanding of what the company can do and what they offer and how I could be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to hear that it opened your eyes, because that was part of our goal today, is everyone to speak to our program, what the initiatives that we have in place, as well as introduce you to some of our procurement leaders who have helped us tremendously, honestly, in meeting our goals year over year. So I'm happy. Please, yes, invite us all onto LinkedIn and register on our portal.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also, we're at time, unfortunately, and I see these hands raised. I can see that it just needed a little bit of warming up to ask these questions. Please definitely feel free to shoot an email if you do want to get an answer from us. We're open, we're comfortable, we're easygoing people, as you can see. Please, as we mentioned, maybe for the umpteenth time, registration portal is the first thing to get our attention, and then obviously shoot an email. But with that being said, I will like to thank everyone for joining this informative panel, this discussion. I think it's very important, especially for me as a Black woman, ending the Black History Month with such an informative conversation specific to helping out MBEs. I hope it was beneficial to you all as well. Thank you to my lovely panelists, Rich, Kathy, Jen, and Norman. Thank you, Corey Reese, Mindy Deliri, one of my favorite bosses at Estee Lauder, as well as Ashley Gabb, my director. Thank you so much. And the New York, New Jersey Minority Supplier Development Council. It's been tremendous partnering with you all. I did not mention when I first started studying my background, I've only been in supplier diversity for about a year now, but I'm not going back. I love it so much. I love being able to be a change maker, as I mentioned. And yeah, so thank you all again for joining, and hope to hear from you all soon.